Welcome everyone to the one of the first engagement of the India Food Systems Youth Networks engagement. Today's session is on food systems by Dr. Gurmeet Singh. Dr. Gurmeet Singh is a professor and dean for research and outreach at TDU Bangalore campus. He has rich experience working on research and development in fast-moving consumer goods industry, developing and implementing new technologies to deliver for beverage industry. More recently, he's focused on identifying, incubating, and making market-ready disruptive innovation that have potential to become core to traditional food businesses. He has worked across the globe in three different continents, and we have the privilege of engaging with Dr. Gurmeet for the 1 hour. And I am sure that there will be lot of enriching discussion and conversation unfolding in today's engagement. So I invite all of you to please use this time and use the chat box as your Q&A spots. You may put in your questions there, and Dr. Gurmeet can answer them later towards the end of the session. But before we move on, before I hand over to Gurmeet Singh, I would like to request all of you to use the WhatsApp group for updates. We also have shared links to join our Google Classroom via emails and WhatsApp. If you haven't received it, please wait for us to write back to you in some time. If you have registered through the website Google form, we'll write back to you in some time. And looking forward to this session. Please engage through and through. Dr. Gurmeet, please.
All right, thanks, Vishal. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Welcome to this youth network. We spoke about the youth network last time and the importance of the youth group in the food system transformations that we're speaking about. This youth network is has five key experts that you will nodal experts, right? That you get to engage with, who practice various parts of the of food transformations, right? Both from an academic perspective, working with students and their ideas, but also on field projects. And those five experts are Professor Pulkit Mathur is here from Lady Irwin College in Delhi. Professor Sarita Anand is there again from Lady Irwin College in Delhi. Professor Iram Rao is there from Bhaskacharya College in Delhi. And Professor Shambhu Prasad is there from the Tribhuvan Sahakari University, formerly IRMA in Anand, Gujarat, right? And then myself, Gurmeet, in Trans-Disciplinary University. So, as a youth network, if you have a first question with respect to food systems, these are the five nodal experts for you to reach out to, right? For questions, queries, reading material you are interested in, deep diving in certain topic, reach out to any five of us, right? Each of us has a certain specialization, but I don't think you need to worry about that in these early stages. You will realize that as we move on as to where our specializations are, because we'll take multiple sessions, right, in this. And to complement our work, there will be a number of sessions around activities, gamification, etc. That will be conducted, and Vishal and Chaitali Foodwise will help in that activity, right? So yeah, so with that kind of a background, let's jump to today's session around food systems and food systems transformation. I have a number of slides. I don't think I'll ever get through them. If this was a one-on-one class, probably I would have only gotten through 4 or 5 slides. On an online, because there's lesser interaction, maybe I'll get through a little more. But I have a lot of 30 or so slides, right? It's asking me something. Yeah. So can you all see my page, and I'll put it on.
Yes, Dr. Gurmeet, we can.
Yeah, you can see that, right? Yeah. So yeah, the two organizations here, first of all, that I need to acknowledge, right? I'm a professor here at Trans-Disciplinary University, and where lead a program around food futures. and I'll talk about food futures as we go around. And then the other name is RIST, RIST, which is Rural India Supporting Trust, which is the organization which has been funding us very generously. It's a philanthropic group which has been funding us very, very generously uh, to do research on food systems and food system transformations, the number of ideas that we are taking forward from the lab to the field, and they provide the funding. The team is almost 50 people working in our university on food system transformation, various facets of it. And Rural India Supporting Trust is the generous grant behind that. That's one reason, because we've been working on it for 8 years in this program, that GIZ and COFTI also selected us as one of the partners to execute both the hackathon and the youth network, right? So my email is there in case somebody wants to reach out, right? I may not be very prompt in replying, but if you send me a few reminders on email, I'll uh, I'll get to replying to you, right? Okay, so first of all, a chart that anybody who's been working with me will see this again and again and probably get bored with it. But I think it is very important. And this chart talks about, I mean, all of you are part of this food systems, right? And the question you have to ask yourself is why do you think food systems, right? What do you want to do with food systems and why do you want to transform it? What is the problem that you're trying to solve if you want to change something, right? If there is no problem, why fix it, right? Or why change it? So, any thoughts here? Uh, Anybody would like to go or put it on the chat or speak out? Yeah. Or maybe I can I can see Nandini's name there. Nandini, you want to unmute and just say why? What are the challenge? What are we trying to solve? इसी को तो आना पड़ेगा, right?
Sir, current food is not giving us enough nutrition, and that's why all our healths are failing. Whether it is a teenager today or a aged person, our food
Okay.
profile is not giving us the enough nutrients to live a healthy life.
Okay. Uh, Interesting take. Yeah. That's
To
one.
make the system sustainable, like we are engaging in reducing the carbon content from
Mhm.
the food system, that will
Yeah.
help in the future term, because now also we can see the European FTA, they are very much focusing on reducing carbon amount from the environment. So this will
Okay.
be very much helpful.
Yeah. Good. That's also one reason. Anybody else?
There's one another reason, sir, that we
Hmm.
are taking food from the earth. What are
Yes.
we returning back into the earth? So that is one major component that we need to ask ourselves. Is it
Hmm.
sustainable? Is it viable? Is it eco-friendly?
Yeah.
Is it better for nature?
Yeah. Cool. Right. Absolutely right. Anyone else would like to speak up?
Never considered so big celebrity. They find it offending to come on
Yeah,
national
Saloni.
TV. TV was a
Saloni, you want to speak up or unmuted by mistake? Okay.
Sir, why
Anybody else?
are we talking about food systems today? And if we
Yeah.
just look around 150 years back, 200 years
Hmm.
back, when we were
Yeah.
eating natural, drinking water from the rivers was natural,
Hmm.
and we didn't have so many diseases in the world at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So what is it making that we have to talk about food systems 150 years down the line when we are
Right.
supposed
Brilliant.
to be advancing in science?
Yeah. So interesting question, right? And so let me ask this question. Uh, is it the first time in human evolution that we are talking about that we are at a cusp of food system transformation? That we are talking about a food system transformation, or has there been a food systems transformation earlier as well? Any thoughts?
Now it plays a strategic role in the advancement of any countries. So that's why it is more important to focus on it.
It's important to focus on it today because yeah, it's a strategic, right? Of strategic importance to the planet as well as to various countries, right? Political boundaries as well, right? Yeah. So that's fair. Yeah. But my question is it the first time in human evolution that we are talking about a food system transformation, or do you think there would have been thoughts around that earlier as well in our evolution, right? As I think Gautam said, uh, 200 years ago, was anybody talking of food system? Was there a food system transformation that happened 200 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 1 million years ago, right? Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, there have been transformations, sir. When
Mm-hmm.
human beings discovered farming, when human
And
beings discovered carbohydrates.
right. Yeah.
So those kind of transformations have been happening.
Correct.
And other transformations have been in our cooking methods. When human
Mm-hmm.
beings discovered the wheel, human being discovered
Yeah.
fire, steam,
Mm-hmm.
something of that sort. Human beings discovered
Right.
fermentation, natural storage.
Mm-hmm.
So those transformations have
Correct.
been happening.
Yeah. So transformations have happened, right? But why do you call them transformations? Were they very big? Did we change
We
our diet?
evolved,
Yeah.
evolved to a better thing.
Yeah. Evolved to a different thing, right? Better thing, maybe different
Yeah.
thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was an interesting question. I think that to ask ourselves that have there been big transformations in the past, right? And if I look at, I think there are about 4, 5 big transformations which happened. So there's a separate lecture that I take, and maybe if there is time in one of these in this forum, I may take a lecture on the evolution of food, right, and food systems. But almost you can think of in that 10 million history of mammals to primates, basically primates emerging and then primates all the way to Homo sapiens and then humans of today. I can think of about 5 big transformations. And I call them transformations because it changed our diet very dramatically, right? Brought new things, new molecules, new ways of making things, eating things, and had impact on our biology also. Our genetic composition also kind of changed as a result because it selected for a few things. And those things are, you could think of that we were tree dwelling, right? Primates at a time, about 10 million years ago, right? And that means that we were largely eating fruit, right, at that time. And that was our main diet, right? And then we descended down into the savannas, into the plains, into the grasslands, and we became hunter gatherers, right? So it's not that we were not eating animal food before that, but largely our food was fruits, right? And then we became hunter gatherers, which means we started complementing, right? Hunting with gathering, right? So that was a very dramatic shift and changed a lot of things, right? From our jaws to our digestive system to our brain, a lot of different things happened. And then the third big change was when we tamed fire, right? Fire was always there. We probably had tasted cooked things because there were always fire happenings in nature and things getting burnt, fruit getting burnt, animals getting burnt, and we would have tasted things. But taming fire and almost getting to a kitchen kind of thing happened only about 500,000 years to 2 million. We are not sure. So there's a 1.5 million year band over which we probably tamed fire. And that brought cooking, right? Cooked food into mainstay as most of our from raw to cooked, right? And a major change, right? And imagine the kind of biological changes that would have happened. Our gut became even smaller, food became denser, it became tasty. When we talk of today that, hey, there are industries which are trying to get us to taste tasty food and get hooked onto it. Well, the biggest taste event in our human evolution was fire, right? And the moment we got to taste Maillard notes, we've not given it up and nobody will ever give it up, right? We may now go to a next phase of even more tasty stuff. but we are always on a journey of delight, right, in our evolution. So that was a big change that happened about, as I said, 500,000 years ago, you could say. And then the fourth big change was farming, right, which happened 10,000 years ago, right? So not very far. And rightly, as Gautam said, right? So farming was a big thing because we suddenly went from mostly forage food to farmed food, right? And it reduced the number of things we eat very dramatically, right? Because we started 50% farmed and only 50% forage, right? It was a very big change. And also, the moment we uh, settled down for farming, uh, we started domesticating animals and milk became part of our diet. Earlier, milk was not a mainstay of our diet, maybe occasionally, and most of humans could not digest milk beyond 3, 4, 5 years because we lacked the genetic makeup to break down lactose and be able to digest, right? Even today, after 10,000 years, half of the world's population, 4 billion people, cannot digest lactose. So I call this 10,000 years is the half-life of a genetic mutation related to digestion, right? And but that brought another dairy food into our diets. And then uh, the fifth big change happened when we started understanding that by adding a few nutrients to the soil, which we now know as nitrogen and potash and the NP phosphorus, right, into the soil, things change, and that led to from small scale, we already knew that, always knew that in 10,000 years of farming, that a little bit of goo, a little bit of poop of animals helps. But when we found uh, uh, mountains and mountains of bird poop, no, guana as we call, off the coast of South America, uh, we went crazy and berserk, and that created a revolution which eventually then led to the Haber-Bosch process, invention of urea. And so it's like a 150-year history which is playing out of adding fertilizers and looking at breeds which will work well with fertilizers and finding water to suit that. And we have gone from, say, 500 kgs of grains growing in a hectare to about 10,000 kgs of grains going in a hectare, right? But that has come with a lot of penalty, and it has become too extractive, as I think Vidhi or someone mentioned here, that a lot of carbon is getting added to the air as a result of all this activity. And therefore, we are now at a cusp of that we want a sixth major transformation to happen. And what you guys are doing through this youth network, and for those of you who participated in the hackathon, right, you are coming up with ideas and actions to seed these food system transformations, right? So that's the basic, that these are, just imagine, right, that you are living in a decade or in a life where we are at a cusp of a major food system transformation. And in 10 million years, only five such transformations have happened, right? And this is the sixth one in which you are getting to play a role. To me, that seems very, very exciting, right? That I am born in a age where I get to play a role in a very transformative technology. And while people think AI is the big transformation which is happening at this time, quantum computers is what is happening as a big transformation. Food systems is equally exciting. And the kind of sciences which are involved, from microbiome to metabolomics to genomics, nutrigenomics, phytoprofiling, very fancy processing and cell cultures, extrusion technologies, CRISPR technologies, biofortification, agroecology. The kind of technologies we are talking about are mind-boggling and very, very cutting edge, and most of them getting developed in the last 20 years, right? And they're very recent. Many of them haven't even reached the field yet. They're not even a pilot stage, let alone a field stage. So it's an era to be extremely excited about food and what food requires. I mean, 10 years ago, you needed people interested in food would take food science degree or a food engineering degree, right? Today, food is of interest, and the kind of talent that requires cuts across from computer science to mechanical engineering, to psychology, to complexity science, to behavioral science, to sensory science, to technology, food technology, etc. So there's talent required from all fields, right? Different kinds of fields. If you really want a transformation to happen, right? It's so that's where we are. So do you all guys also uh, feel the excitement about this, right? The excitement and the urgency. I think both those things are there, right? Together. But do you also, all of you, kind of registered yourself for this youth network, registered for the hackathon? Also excited by this?
Yes.
So what excites you? I mean, maybe I don't know, Naisa, if you are there, Himanshi, Tanisha, Priyanshu, like to hear more voices, right? I don't see you here, but at least hearing your voice will be nice. For anyone, just speak up. What excites you about today's age and food?
What excites me is as I keep on wondering, where are we heading for, and
Yeah,
are we improving in the real sense?
yeah.
Or are we just using science as a tool and not understanding human body, human physiology, human gut bacteria, and how
Mhm.
humans are actually integrated with nature? But are we separating the two? We separated the two, the humans and the nature. We created different type of a processed food, and in the
Yeah.
100 years, we have seen cancer and cardiac things coming up, which were never there earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So what excites me is to see where all the names that you took out, genome
Yeah.
sequencing, all the other research. So is this research heading for the correct direction, or is it heading in the wrong direction, in the sense that the ultimate resultant, though it seems right now, but the resultant on the human thing works out wrong.
Yeah. True. Any other thoughts on what excites you? Very true,
Since
Gautam.
I am since I am more inclined towards geopolitical issues, there
Mm-hmm.
was recently a trade agreement between India and USA, but
Mm-hmm.
India then also strictly avoided the genetically modified crops that
Mm-hmm.
US is giving
Yeah.
out to India, offering to India. And I got into core of it. I got to know various diseases that were associated with those crops. But
Mm-hmm.
what excites me is the medical sciences, all the effects that crossbreeding and genetically modifying the crops
Mm-hmm.
become can uh, associate with. And what excites me is how to cure them, how to cure the national interest of people, because
Mm-hmm.
food is the basic necessity, and everyone is eating it,
Yeah.
and making making it more uh, sustainable. That is
Yeah.
what excites me the most.
Cool. Nice. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? What
So
excites?
maybe integrating technology and AI with the
Mhm.
traditional food system will help us to ensure maximum potential in this area. So I would like to see that.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah. I think, yeah, being able to use all the new emerging tools to look at food transformation is a very exciting, I call as heady, right? Uh, gives a lot of energy to me, excitement me. So I think, yeah, all of you are true. But don't shy away from experimenting, right? As Gautam said, right? We don't know whether our one idea will work or not, right? Each of us will probably work on one idea, right? What an idea that I am passionate about, right? So if there are 20 people on this call, each of you may have a different idea, right? And you may want to work on your own idea. And nobody knows which idea will work and which won't, right? But if each one of us has the passion to pursue our idea, we call that as pilots, right? And one of those pilots will be successful. So what we want is that a lot of ideas are out there and people are passionate enough to try out those ideas, right? And uh, but at the same time, uh, be knowledgeable enough on all how we have gotten here and what do we need to do, right? Because there's a lot of information out there which is available to us. So can we learn from there, right? As we jump up to a new idea, as we go to a transformation, right? Where are we jumping from and what do we want to get to, right? And what will it take to transform, right? Because this word systems and transformation are very interesting words, right? And we'll talk a little bit about those words in the next few slides, right? So let me go on to the next slide. And this is what kind of captures what all of you have been saying, right? And they say that, hey, uh, what most of us are interested in, the goal for almost all of us is health, right? Or as I call holistic health, or the three spheres of health, right? Those three spheres of health are our own health, the health of the individual, as I call, the health of the society, because we all live as an individual. I am part of a society, a community, right? And so the health of that community or society is very key to me. If only I am healthy and the society around me, the community around me is healthy, it's not a complete health for me, right? I have to worry about my safety. I have to worry about so many other things, right? And therefore, societal health, which is livelihoods of everybody of around us, right? And not just livelihood, because livelihood can be by donation also, but dignity as well, right? And justice and fair value, right? Is also part of that, right? Societal health. And the third, of course, is the health of the planet, because I am a small sphere myself, individual, living in a bigger sphere, concentric sphere, the society, and the societies are there in a bigger sphere on planet, right? So the planet's health is equally important. So all these three spheres of health, right, are the big challenges, no matter which forum you go to, from United Nations to our parliament to wherever, right? These are the three things which are getting spoken about. But in many of these forums, these three are spoken about uh, individually, right? As if they are not connected with each other. The one thing which seems to connect each of them is food, right? And let us see how, therefore, food connects, right? So let's just look at these three dimensions of food, right? So when we look at food, right, our earliest thinking about food was its energy, right? Even today, people talk of calories, it's printed on menus, it's printed at the back label. Then around nearly 100 years now, 1930 onwards, when we discovered vitamin C, etc., we started understanding nutrition, right? And therefore, we started going to nutrients of food and food components in food chemistry, right? So we start, the next definition of food was food is nutrition, right? The third definition that we are now beginning to understand is that food is information, right? Because all these molecules are triggering on pathways, switching on and switching off, very specific information. Like people talk about, science talks about a very specific amino acid called leucine. It is one of the essential amino acids, one of the 9 essential amino acids, one of the 20. But that amino acid at a certain concentration is required to flip the switch so that the amino acid you are eating as protein will go towards muscle building. If that is not there or less than 2.5 grams on your plate, that switch will not turn on. You are eating proteins, but it is not going to go towards your muscle, right? So the very, very specific switches. Also, a lot of these molecules talk to our DNA, right? Through our epigenome, right? So food is being understood now as an information, which is extremely exciting as well, right? And that's what contributes to fuel, nutrition, information together, looks at individual health, right? Contributes to that. You look at livelihoods and dignity, I spoke about that, societal health. And then you take planet health, it's the health of the land, the health of the water, the health of the air, the health of all other species who share the planet with us, right? And together, if we manage all these three healths, we are talking about holistic health, and holistic health is joy, right? And that's what we want in life, right? So there's a bigger philosophical story, right, to where we are. And food has a very strong connect with all these three things, right? Because look at the impact of food on our own health. They say that about 70% of non-communicable diseases have their roots in the food choices that we make at your age, right? At the age of about 20, 25, 30, that age, right? So that's a very critical age of being mindful of what we eat, our food choices, right? That's a big impact, right? 70%. If you look at societal health, then 60 to 65% of population of India derives its primary livelihood from food, either growing it or milling it, which is primary processing, or cooking it in a street side dhaba or a street vendor or in a restaurant or in a five-star for a living, because otherwise almost all of us cook, right? But for a living, right? And then processing, food processing industry. And today, food delivery like Swiggy, etc., is 5% of the traffic in Bangalore, right? So food is a means of livelihood for such a large. So how do we ensure, if we have to tackle livelihood and dignity, food plays a big role. I was listening to Ajay Banga, who is the CEO of World Bank, right? And there was a meeting in Davos a couple of weeks ago. And there was an interview on BBC as well last week. And the statement that he was making was very fascinating, that, we are going to be adding 1.2 billion people are going to enter into a working age, which means 18 years and above, 1.2 in the developing world, 1.2 billion people. And you're saying that the traditional jobs, if you look at from each, the survey that they have done, the countries have reported they will be creating 400 million jobs. So he says for the World Bank, the big challenge is 800 million people need to have jobs, right? And a big part of that jobs for me, I mean, he doesn't mention food specifically, he mentions manufacturing and agri-related jobs, but food as a livelihood, there is immense opportunity, right? For the masses, right? Not just for a few, but for the masses. It could add a few percentage points to our GDP, that big, right? If we get our food right, food story right. And then we come to the planet, right? The third dimension of health. Uh, if you look at the amount of land, total land available on planet Earth is 150 million square kilometers, out of which habitable, where humans can live 365 days a year, is 100 million square kilometers. And half of that, 50 million square kilometers, is devoted to food. In India, it's actually 60% of the total land. So 3.3 million square kilometers, but about 1.7, 1.8 now, if you combine grains plus horticulture, which has grown massively in the last few years. Uh, so land, huge impact on food. 90% of freshwater withdrawals devoted to a food system, right? 10% to 30% of greenhouse gases. So massive impact on sustainability. And therefore, why not look at food? Because as center of plate for solving the three big challenges that we are facing globally, right? Is how. And if you have to therefore address this food, there are three thinkings we feel are very important, critical. One is the systems thinking, which is the connection of food with the environment and ecology, right? Connecting food to society, culture, economy, environment, from food sourcing to food consumption, waste, and the circularity. Second is the design thinking, because it's food. We are tuned genetically. Every species on planet Earth is tuned for delight, right? In some sense or the other, right? And uh, and therefore, this is about connecting food to the consumer, from consumer need to consumer delight. And the third thinking is wellness thinking, which is connecting the connection of food with human biology, which is what a few of you also mentioned when you spoke about your thought. The effect of food choices, not just on nutrition tomorrow, but also what will be the effect of those choices 20 years from now, right? So those are three thinkings we think is very important. And this starting point is looking at systems thinking. So let's come to why systems thinking, right? See, we could think of incremental changes, right? They take us only so much forward, and that is fine when we are living in an age where we think today's system is fine. But if we really want to transform and say, hey, these are three big mega challenges, our own health, planet's health, society's health, we really need to take things differently, and that's transformation, right? It's building a completely new paradigm. It's going to change the way we do things. I'm beginning to settle down. I'm no longer willing to be a wanderer and food gatherer. I'm going to just sit down in a place and stay there and farm, and I'm going to drink milk. Right? It may seem crazy. 10,000 years ago, a person who decides to drink milk must have been considered as a mad person, must have been punished. That what kind of a psycho is this person that he goes and milks animals and drinks them, right? Even when he's 20. Just think of yourself, right? That you are drinking milk and nobody else is. What would they think of you, right? So that's what transformation is, right? That it almost seems at this point of time, hey, this idea seems to be absolutely crazy. I don't want to do it. Whenever you hear such an idea, it's a transformative idea, something which your inherent nature almost rebels against, right? Right? That's a transformative idea, right? So don't give up on those, thinking that these are absurd, etc. Note it down, right? Transformation also means it's an important chart that got from GIZ, right? One of the many meetings where we've had over the last 2, 3 years is that when you transform and move on to a different way of doing things, you're basically giving up, right? The way you are doing things today, right? And that's true transformation. Otherwise, it's incremental. If I am doing everything almost very similarly, my plate looks very similar to what it was yesterday, it's not really transformative, right? So if you look at every single transformation event that we spoke about, massive changes that happened in our diet, right? I take a lot of my next few slides from these few documents, right? There is this 2021 document, which was the first time United Food Systems Summit, which happened, which kind of started defining what is a food system, right? Nobody had really put it down on paper till then. And then what drives a food system, right? There needs to be a power, a driver, which is moving it forward. And this HLPE report, again, a United Nations effort, 2017, which spoke about that. HLP stands for High Level Panel of Experts. And I like a paper by Marshall 2021, which talks about food systems, typography, etc. I'll share these three documents with Vishal, who can then share with all of you. They make up for interesting reading, right? So let us look at what is a food system, right? If our goal is to alter food systems, right? That's what our, right? And as you guys have said, we want to alter it, change it because we want it to be healthier from a nutrition and health perspective, our own, more sustainable from a planet's perspective, and more equitable from a society perspective, right? Fair distribution. So that's the goal. And that's what this United Nations Summit in 2021 got together, right? To discuss as to how should we go about doing this, right? And where they came about, hey, we actually need to transform the whole food system, right? And since then, we have been trying to gather momentum, get all the countries in the world to sign up to the need for these kind of transformations, evolve some metrics so that we know we are moving in the right direction, etc. Right? So one question which came up from our last session, I thought it was interesting is, right, when we talk of food system, the first question, of course, is what is food system, right? And and last time when we discussed a few of the thoughts which came about, right, uh, were pointing to a food supply chain as a starting point or embedded somewhere in a food system. So I thought it's interesting to look at what's the difference between a food supply chain or a food value chain and a food system, right? And here are a few thoughts that I have, right? When I look at what is a food supply chain or a value chain, because let's begin there. Food supply or a value chain is linear. Typically, if you draw around, this is the farmer sends it to the mandi. From mandi, the Food Corporation of India comes in, their agents come and buy it. It goes down to the godowns of FCI. From there, it goes to the ration shops. From the ration shop, we come with a ration card, we pick up and we take the material home. That's one supply chain. It's a very linear supply chain, and it basically tracks material flow. Right? Or it could also track cash flow because at every point cash is exchanging hand, right? As you go forward. So it's either material flow or cash flow, and you follow that and you come up with the supply chain and the steps, as I said, input, supply, production, transportation, processing and manufacture, because milling, etc. will be there, retailing, wholesaling, preparation of food, disposal of waste, right? And you could say, hey, this is my value chain, right? All of us are familiar with this, right? Yeah. So food system, how is it different, right? Yeah. A food system, now coming to the bottom part of this chart, uh, is actually a little different because now we are beginning to look not just the what are the stages, right, through which food moves, material flows, but also uh, who are the actors in each of these states, right? How are they feeling, right? How are they valued? What are their activities actually, right? Are everybody who transports, is there only one kind of transportation, or are there multiple kinds of transportation? Is there only one way of growing products, or is there hundreds of ways of growing the same rice, right? Some are using fertilizers, some are using something completely different, right? Some are using a lot of water, others may be using without water, right? So are there different ways of doing these activities? So a food system therefore becomes the sum of the actors along a value chain, but also their activities, their relationships, their interconnectedness, right? Because a relationship could also be a negative relationship, right? There is a farmer's market, right, on my street where the farmers come and sell. But hey, none of the communities around here want that, because then there's a lot of traffic on the road who's walking and they are not able to drive their cars, right? So the communities are pooling together to say, hey, the farmer should not be allowed to sit here, right? While the same community also wants to buy the food, right? But they don't want the traffic build up there, right? So you can see those kind of relationships come into the food system, right? They would not be part of the value chain if you're just drawing a value chain. So those relationships are equally important, right? It includes the how of each stage, right? How is each of those states run, right? And the food system is therefore more holistic, and it is including the environment, the society, the economic aspects, right? Including things like food waste, climate change, health, etc. So it's very broad in that sense, right? And therefore, if you look at just a comparison, I put a few comparison points. If you look at scope, value chain is largely around material flow or cash flow, whereas food system includes the environment, the society, the cultural values, the economics. The focus of when we look at and draw food supply chain is largely to look at the efficiency of it, the competitiveness of this. Hey, Indian food supply chains are less efficient than those of, say, the US or Europe, etc. And therefore, how can we improve, etc. Looks at profitability, right, etc. Whereas the focus here are broader, like we're looking at food security, nutrition, environmental health, etc. So the focus is very different when we talk of food systems, right? The motivation of trying to understand food in terms of a system is very different from trying to understand from a value chain perspective. The components, right? Is just the core value, the material flow, cash flow, whereas here it includes the actors, the processes, the relationships. In the analysis, typically foods in to identify bottlenecks to increase income, whereas here is to look at systemic view, right? Long-term thinking, right? It's where not just मेरा अगले साल am I going to get the 10% growth in my income or not? And therefore, right, an ideal food system that we are looking for should give us nutrition for all, should be productive and efficient, because we do need to feed all, right? Affordable food to all, not just profit for a few. Environmentally sustainable, climate smart, and inclusive, right? So those become your viewpoints as to where do you want to. So you require now metrics around each one of them to see if this transformation, I'm going to test my idea as a pilot, as a transformative idea. Which of these things is it moving forward towards? And therefore, what is the goal? Right? Can I have a qualitative goal for each or a quantitative goal for each? Right? But I do need to have a goal, some kind of a metrics, a meter that that helps me understand I'm moving. So I like this book. For those of you, this is a free PDF which is available, Limits to Growth. I first read it in the year 1993, right? Where I was teaching a course at Penn State University. I was a faculty there for a few years. And I was teaching a course on wastewater treatment, etc. But I came across, no, or environment science actually, in chemical engineering department. And I started reading this book as background material and got very excited about what it had at that time, right? So I'll suggest those of you who are interested could begin here, because almost for the first time they started talking about food systems, and these broader set of values such as nutrition and health, livelihoods, planet, etc. So free PDF, a very small book, 100 pages or so, even lesser, right? And fun to read. And these are some metrics, as I said, that people have come up with that, hey, if you're looking at climate, and these are just the environment related metrics. I have not put the other livelihood related metrics or others here, health related, but 5 gigatons of carbon dioxide is what we should limit it to. right? Not more than that. Today, we are adding about 30 to 40 gigatons total per year, out of which 5 are coming from food-related activities, right? So that's where we should cap at, it says, right? Land system changed 13 million square kilometers. I said about that should be the crop land, not more than that. Today, we are using 50 million square kilometers, right? Crop plus pasture. Fresh water usage is at 90% in India, but they're giving a number 2,500 kilometer cube per year, right? Massive amount of water, nitrogen amount, phosphorus amount, biodiversity amount. That's the extinction, right? Species extinction rates, right, over the mean levels, etc. So people have numbers so that we can track these things down, right? And these are some interesting metrics which come from the paper I have put here. That if you have to look at environment, breaking down air, what does air mean, quality, and then what are the parameters, of air quality, PM levels, PM5, etc., quality of water, water का pH है, or the nitrogen content, or BOD, or soil, right? Carbon level in the soil, etc. For environmental factors, for economic performance, financial, employment rate, economic distribution, social, gender equity, inclusion, food and nutrition, में food security, availability, access, utilization, stability, food safety, food waste, food nutrition. So these are various metrics. And so my suggestion to you, all of you had a innovation idea that you submitted, right? And what I'm requesting you to do is now go back, look at your innovation idea, and think which of these, there are 27 parameters here, which of those 27 parameters are you trying to address? Which of those 27 indicators are you trying to address, right? Link it up, because once you start linking, you are now becoming part of a system. You are starting to move from a food innovation idea to a food system innovation idea, right? And that's what our journey is, to move from a food innovation idea that I'm going to make the next best noodle, right, to the next best food system idea. So where we are all today, when we look at the 97 or so ideas which are submitted to us, almost all of them were food innovation ideas, which is fine, right? But our journey is to understand systems thinking and understand what part of the system I'm trying to transform, which cog, which wheel in this massive am I trying to transform, and what will be the effect of this activity on the other 26 indicators. Because in some, it may improve, it may be a synergy. In others, it may be a trade-off, that it will actually impact it negatively, because no idea will impact all 27 positive, right? And in some cases, it may be neutral. It may not affect those indicators. But go through this exercise. This is the most important exercise. That's why I put up these chart, right, that you want to do. This is just, yeah. So I hope that's one of my key messages here, that in this journey, since all of you are motivated in this youth network to do a food system transformation, to understand as to which of these 27 widely accepted indicators, right, of food is your idea impacting, and what is the impact of that idea on the other 26 indicators, right? Do that kind of a very broad, quick analysis, right? So that's one kind of an exercise that you should look at. This is just a supply chain at the top. I said input, supply, industry, agriculture, production, processing, marketing, and so on. And below, at the bottom, I've listed the actors. The machinery manufacturers are the actors, the agri-chemical actors, companies, feed companies, these are the input supply. Agricultural production are the farmers and the cooperatives. The processing are the small, medium, large agri-food industries. The marketing are the logistic, wholesale, retail, etc. And the end, you have the homes and the consumers, right? So those are the actors, right? Or the active, right? So you have the stage of the supply chain, and then you have the actors, and in between you have the activities, like fertilizer production is an activity, tractors and irrigation is an activity, post-harvest processing is an activity, right? Cooling food or distribution food is an activity that marketing people may do. Cooking is an activity, right, which we'll do at the last age, consumption. This is a chart from the HLP, which I always go to when I try to map a food system. And here you will see this food supply chain is a small part in here, right? Production system, storage, you can all see the food supply chain part here, right? Right. And what this is telling you is the various other components, right? That this food supply chain exists in a food environment. And so food environment becomes another important part of a food system. How does food become available to me? Right? How does it become affordable? What's the income, right? That's the environment, right? My salary, my income I have to buy food, right, is part of the food environment. Just because there is a supply chain doesn't mean that I can buy that food, right? Also, how do I decide what to buy? When I go to a shop, there are hundreds of products, but I'm picking only five and coming back because of maybe my parents told me something is good, or maybe something is getting promoted. I saw an advertisement, or maybe there is somebody who gave a lecture in school and informed me about these are things I should have, right? Some decisions. So that's an important part of the food environment. How am we never think of what makes me make this decision to buy these five things out of the 500 things in the shop, right? But that's because of food environment, right? And then, of course, food quality and safety is another important part, right? So that I stay healthy. It's not just nutrition, but safety also, right? And so that's these food environments then drive consumer behavior, right? Help us choose what we are going to bring. And that consumer behavior then defines diet. And that diet then defines what we are looking at, my health, but equally the health of the society and the health of the planet, right? And that then builds towards the sustainable development goals that the UN is looking for, right? It's 2030 agenda. And many of you may have heard of that. If not, go read about the sustainable development goals. Short reads, but go down to not just reading the goals, but there are documents there which talk about what are the sub goals and what are the metrics to see that we are succeeding in that. And that's very interesting reading. And then what drives this system? There are certain drivers up there, such as innovation, technology, politics and economic driver, the weather, the biophysical environment, the socio-cultural drivers, and so on, right? So that this picture, if you have in front of you, is the other picture you should look at, because what you're trying to understand is that uh, where are you playing with your innovation idea, right? I spoke about this chart, where are you playing? And then this is the other, because which part of the system are you focusing on, right? Once you have a clear understanding that this is the part I'm trying to transform, am I trying to transform processing or storage or production? Which by type of production? What will be the food environment when I change that? How do I need to make sure it fits into that? How do I derive consumer behavior? How do I do this? Because unless all of these things, you know where you fit in, how do you know what transformation do you do? So think of this chart and this chart. These are the two more critical charts, and find your place on it, right? So I think I should stop at this point. We have 6 minutes remaining. There are a few more charts I do want to cover. Maybe a subsequent lecture, etc., will allow me to cover the next part of the story, which I feel is equally important. But let's stop here and see if there are a few questions, etc. Because I want to connect it to the UN sustainability goals and then look at how do you go from framework to actually defining a food system, right? Uh, yeah. So any questions, thoughts, team here?
So, sir, what's the objective of all this series of lectures? I mean, what are we supposed to do after this series of lectures are done?
See, the reason for these lectures are the multiple reasons, right? The question you have to ask is, what excites you about food? And you mentioned, all of you mentioned that the things that excite you, why you want a food system transformation is around better nutrition, a better planet, better lives, correct? Yeah. And the question now is, how do you change that? So you are thinking of some action, right? If you really want to participate in this change, you are thinking of that I need to act for that change, correct?
Right.
So that's what we call as an action, a food system action, right? It is important when we act to understand what part of the system am I acting on or transforming, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because otherwise, how do we transform? Because then I do not know. I want to move a car, right? But I'm pushing it from top down, right? It will not move in the direction I want to, correct? So if you wanted to move forward, you will push from the back. right? You'll not push from the front, you'll not push from the bottom, you'll not push from the top. So you need to understand the system and understand where will my force act and what will it do, right? Similarly here, all of us have some action ideas. When we presented our ideas in a hackathon or otherwise in our daily lives, we are thinking of actions. We are talking about problems and complaints, but we are also equally thinking of actions. And when we have an action, it is really important for that action to become meaningful and agent, right? Today you've heard the word agent a lot from the AI world, right? But that's what agency is, right? Agency is that how will an action move something, right? Is what an agency is, right? And all of us want to transform. Then what part of the system am I acting on so that the whole system changes? Right? So today's lecture and the subsequent lectures are largely around that to refine our thinking through some giving you these concepts, right? So that your actions, whatever you do, become more meaningful, right?
Yes,
Does
sir.
it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So today's lecture as a starting point was just understanding this part that look, all of you on this call and beyond, there are about 400 people in the youth network overall where this talk will go to, but there are about 20 or so in the call today, right? But all of you have in mind some actions, right? And today's thing is about trying to get you to think about which part of the system is your action focusing on. Because once you understand that, the chance of your action moving forward goes from 1% to nearly 50%, right? Once you add it, it'll take you time to figure out where, right? Because you'll keep pivoting and changing. But that's the dramatic change which happens in your success when you understand which direction do you have, which part do you have to put your action on. कि गाड़ी के पीछे, are you pushing the car from the back or the front or the top or the bottom? It may seem easy from a car perspective. Hey, obvious, I need to push from the back to move it. But from a food system perspective, it's a very complicated car. That's why it's a complex system. That's why it's a system. And so it's not key. I push here, then it'll move in this direction, right? None of us really know which part to push. And that's why the pilots, that's why the hackathons, that's why so many ideas, that's why the mentorship. We're not talking about there's this one idea, can we everybody work on that, right? Cool. Any other thoughts?
This hackathon, sir, is over or has to be done?
The hackathon continues. There are 10 teams which are shortlisted from the nearly 100 ideas which are submitted. They will work with a panel of experts over the next 5 months, right, to build on. But we encourage you through these youth network to keep sharing your ideas, and we build those ideas. So even if you're not part of the hackathon, you have access to the same experts, right? And our job is not to keep talking here, but if you have an idea, we can focus on that idea, right? Or those ideas, 2, 3 ideas in a youth network that becomes equally interesting, right? Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Any
sir, I
other?
have an idea.
Yeah.
Sir, I have an idea. I mean, it's been in me with me for much time now,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been benefited from it personally also.
Yeah.
Is that I mean, in today's age and date, we are just looking at food as protein, carbohydrates, fats, and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
we have forgotten that we are basically 110% dependent on our gut bacteria to live. So
Yeah.
everything that we are, what we represent, even our thoughts and emotions are a byproduct of the gut bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And without healing our gut bacteria, today all our gut bacteria, we are all in gut dysbiosis, actually speaking. So we got
Yeah.
to heal our gut bacteria. So I was thinking of creating a live probiotic, what do you say, culture made from various, which can have a diverse strains of bacteria which are beneficial for human health, and
Mm-hmm.
couple it up with pre-designed prebiotics from natural foods,
Yeah.
and give it as a package. This was
Yeah.
my thing, is to solve the major problems of health. Other than genetics, genetic problems, I feel that this can solve nearly most of the problems.
Correct.
Gautam,
Correct.
sorry, Dr. Gurmeet. Gautam,
Yeah.
I would request you to reach out to Dr. Gurmeet or separately to discuss your idea. And we have also
Sure,
written
sure.
our email just in case if you want to discuss further, because we would want to enable other students to speak questions and interact with Dr.
Yeah,
Gurmeet.
yeah, yeah.
Priyanshu,
Thanks, thanks.
Where are you
Priyanshu, if
based
you
out
would
of,
like to.
by the way?
I'm in Mumbai.
Mumbai. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments? But interesting idea, Gautam. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Priyanshu Raj. I'm a secondary BTech student from NIFTM.
Yeah.
Uh,
Niftem
so, so I
Kundli
wanted
or
to say that we
Niftem
were,
Tanjavur?
yes, yes, sir. Kundli,
Kundli.
sir, NIFTM Kundli.
Okay.
So I was talking that we were talking about how far we have come in terms of technology or maybe in terms of availability of food in our food systems.
Hmm.
But still, over 78% of freshwater resources are utilized by our food systems. 50% of arable land is used by animal agriculture.
Hmm.
And most of the population is deficient in one or the other nutrients, maybe protein or some micronutrients.
Hmm.
On the other hand, talking about what is uh, the coming era or food systems, which is obviously sustainable, mostly tech driven, and will utilize less resources. I'm specifically, we at NIFTM are working on fermentation derived proteins, right? So the major bottleneck which we find is that, and I was also talking to Mr. Pramod Kumar Prabhakar. He's a faculty here, and he was actually recommending your name to talk to
Hmm.
about this. So I was telling that when it comes to ideas in terms of transformation, like every person working on or building on an idea sees it in a way that this technology or this product will transform the food systems or it will impact so many people. But
Hmm.
still, when we working on something, when we find the industry bottlenecks, when we see how big the problem is, and then start building it, uh, things work on lab scale. But when we go on actual scaling, or maybe when we scale up to a higher level, things totally change differently. So the unit economics, which was very positive in the lab scale, is totally different when it comes to upscaling.
Hmm.
So how do we actually tackle this, and what is your thought about this? And actually, I was very thankful to talk to you because you have a really great background in this, and you have been working on fermentation and protein-based systems since years. So I think you are the very right person to talk to you. And also, can we also connect like directly?
Yeah, yeah. Please feel free to connect directly. I think what I'll suggest is, Vishal, yeah, if you can create a WhatsApp group also, right, of the people who join the calls, right, cumulative group, because there are various different people who join different calls, but keep adding them to the group. But only those who join the calls, right? Those are the active members of the youth network, and put me on that group so that I can, engage a little more, share some interesting
Sure,
material, right? Share thoughts. Would love to
sure.
receive these kind of questions there. It may not be possible to uh, talk to everyone here in these small forums, but that gives an opportunity. So, Vishal, if you could do that, right?
Sure, Dr. Gurmeet. We'll do that.
Yeah.
So on that very note, I've also shared one of the Google forms to be filled. If you just in case if you're new here, you could just fill that form. We'll have your details have, and you also have the email just in case if you have pressing question that you may want to ask or direct to Dr. Gurmeet. We can collect those question and like later on post it to Dr. Gurmeet and we can find a way to discuss them further on. So I
Yeah.
think thank
I
you so
just
much,
wanted to
Dr. Gur.
mention,
Sorry.
yeah, no, I
Yes,
just
yes,
wanted to
please.
mention before I walk away is that since you mentioned protein, Priyanshu, there is a call out there. We have a fully funded PhD from a organization, an NGO called ProVeg. It's a Dutch organization, and they're funding one PhD student, 4-year fellowship, fully funded. So both the fellowship as well as the research part of it, no, the expenses part of it. It's open. So anybody on this call who's interested, please go to the TDU site or reach out to me once, Vishal, you have my email address. I can share the brochure of that call and submit and submit it if you are in a place where you're looking at a PhD. And do share it with your friends, this information with your friends, with your college, etc. Because it's an interesting call. And the lab, what makes it unique is that the lab, the fellowship is fully funded, but the lab is one of the best labs in the world to do protein research, right? Because there is extrusion, there is air classification, there is homogenization, there's productization, there is the biology part of it, the fly model systems, the rheometers, various things there. So anybody interested in the area of proteins and plant proteins, specifically this call is around, please apply to that and please spread the information to your friends. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we sign off? One more question or comment?
No, sir, but only that it was a wonderful session.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cool. Then let me sign off and just Chaitali, Vishal, if you can give me one more session sometime in the near future, then I would like to just complete the story and take to the second half, right, of food system.
Surely, Dr. Gurmeet.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
thank you so much for taking the time out and talking through some of the very interesting topics. And I'm sure, as you started off very rightly saying that 1 hour is basically just to get started on the conversation. And I hope later on we find another time slot, a much longer one, so that we could also dive deeper in the conversation. I think this was one of the first few sessions of the Youth Network, and I am very happy to see that there will be so many subsequent sessions coming up with another great professors and field practitioners into the food. And I can only wait for them and invite all of you to be very active, participate, and look forward to information. We have already shared the details to be in touch with us, and uh, thank you so much for coming up. And we will get back to you with another session really soon. And we'll be in touch after this. And today, when you eat your dinner, please look into your plate and see what all Dr. Gurmeet talked, and look at your plates and see where the food is coming from, what is the food, and if you were given the task to grow that food, would you be able to? So these are the questions that Dr. Gurmeet leaves us with, and I hope we come back again and continue the conversation to build a youth network around food systems in India. With that, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.